So Guy Bailey pointed out the other day that you have to actually, when you think something's strange in lags, you should go and look and find why it's strange, because it probably is strange. So that's one of the things that jumped out at me, and I thought, we need to see what's going on. If you do that, you can generally find reasons for the oddities. But when we look at the two largest groups of parishes, we have on the top, I'll read them down. There's Acadia, Iberia, Jefferson, there's Avoyelles, St. Landry, Plaquemines, St. Tammany, Ascension, Assumption, East Feliciana, Madison, there's Caddo, Orleans, Natchitoches is in there, East Baton Rouge, Point Coupé, Terrebonne, Lafayette, Evangeline, Rapides, and Union. And so when I was reading those the first time, I thought, well, this is a group of parishes that, first of all, most of the largest cities in Louisiana are in that group. Secondly, a lot of those are along the Mississippi River, and then, I guess, up along the Red River. So I thought, let's see what this looks like. So we do that. And when you do this, you discover the parishes in red are the parishes that were in that top group. And it sort of is, in a sense, following this a little bit along the Mississippi, and then up along, I guess, the Red River. While along the Texas coast and southwestern corner, you have the second group, which is more rural farming, and then also the oil industry was largely in southwestern Louisiana and off the coast, obviously. But the important thing to remember is that not every parish has a number of speakers in it. There are several parishes that only had one informant in there, so you really don't want to base a whole parish on one informant. I've indicated here in purple the parishes that only had one informant, and we sort of see this as, well, the way that I like to interpret it is the purple parishes could potentially go either way if we had more data, which we don't, given lags. So things look maybe a little better, maybe a little worse, depending on your perspective and depending on what you actually want to see in it. Of course, my hypothesis, as the abstract stated, was that we would see some specific delineation, demarcation of a Cajun English speaking area. That would be those parishes, or the part of Louisiana where French was historically spoken, the parishes that might make up Acadiana in its official sense in the southern portion of the state. So that's what I want to see in it, and I was determined to do that. So I thought, okay, maybe we should back out a little bit more and look at the grid units. Instead of the parishes, we'll look at the grid units that were provided by LAGS, because in fact LAGS designed these grid units based on socio-historical facts and migration patterns, etc. So we back up a little bit and then look at this clustering, this dendrogram of grids, and we see basically two major divisions with one sort of outlier. The topmost has four groups, and you'll notice in there there's, I don't know if you can see it or not, there's an EC and then FV, FX, FC. The F's all come from western Louisiana, and the E's are from southeastern Louisiana. So you might think, well, that doesn't really work out because there's an E mixed in with those three western Louisiana units. And the same for the second group. There's ED, which is also a southeastern Louisiana unit mixed in with several F's, all western Louisiana. And likewise, there's an F mixed in with the other E's. So unless you know very well LAGS, then you probably don't know what this means, except for the fact that I just said that they're divided up western and west central Louisiana. However, when you look at these on a map, I've highlighted the parishes. These are the parishes that come from those grid units in LAGS. And now we start to see something that looks a lot more like Acadiana, looks a lot more like what we would expect or want to see if you're a sentimentalist. When you're trying to find what makes up a Cajun English speaking or a different English speaking southern Louisiana. So here we have all the blue section is is, I don't want to say Anglo, but generally speaking, or historically speaking, didn't have as much French influence, and the red parishes did have that French influence. On the westernmost edge, southwestmost edge, there are two parishes, Calcasieu and Cameron, that are considered part of Acadiana. However, that close to the Texas border, given crossover from one side to the other, and also the presence of the oil industry and everything else, I'm speculating or imagining that that might contribute to why these two parishes didn't happen to pattern like the rest. This is following, to the east side we've got the Mississippi Delta, the Atchafalaya Basin, by Lafourche, and then going on up into the Lafayette area and environments. You'll notice here, though, that there's a big hole, including Lafourche Parish and St. James, St. John, and St. Charles. That's unfortunate, because it would be interesting to see what those look like. It would have been nice also if, by some chance, Orleans Parish had fallen out as somewhat distinctive, somewhat really different. But there were French speakers, native French speakers in Orleans Parish as well. So I don't know if that has to do with it, or just the fact that it's a metropolitan area, or just the fact that it's more similar to southern Louisiana than it is northern Louisiana. Anyone who's from there can tell you that people north of I-10, more or less, don't sound like people south of I-10. But here's what we have after we looked at all of that. LAVIS provides us a really small capsule of the speech of Louisiana. There's a very small amount of data. We only had, looking at Louisiana alone, there were only 109 informants. And each of those spoke 418 words. And of those, not everyone received a response. So we have a very, very small amount of data, yet you still saw those patterns. Might be because I wanted to see them, but I think that there's something there. There was a north-south division. There was also a somewhat east-west division. And then saying something about this water versus a prairie or farming area. And in the first map, when we saw the parishes, we saw along the rivers, along the waterways, there was a certain grouping, whereas in the prairies in north of Louisiana, in farmland, and to the west, there was a different speech pattern.